How's it going, Diablo players, and welcome to my first build guide of the season. And of course, this is going to be the Frozen Orb Lightning Spear build I have been playing. And I have to say, this build is absolutely nuts. So if you're looking for a build which farms tier 101 in sub 1 minute 30 seconds, if you're looking for a build which melts Uber bosses and Tormented bosses in like seconds, if you're looking for a build which kills Uber Lilith no problem at all, if you're looking for a build which can even beat Infernal Hordes tier 7 and probably even tier 8 or tier 9 once I get the build completely ready, this is definitely the build for you. And it also comes online super quickly. You don't really need any uniques other than Asus boot, and picking those up is not a huge issue, and of course you need the fractured Winterglass, but I highly recommend going on Diablo.trade and buying that instead of doing all the grind. So what does make this build so powerful? Well, we have a change to the Fractured Winterglass, and now it actually reduces cooldowns to conjuration skills whenever a frozen orb explodes. That being said, it happens for every explosion, so even for the explosion which you get from the aspect of the frozen orbit. This results in having a crazy low cooldown on Lightning Spear, and since Lightning Spear now natively casts 2 Lightning Spear instead of 1, and on top of it also does crazy amounts of damage with the new aspect of Splintering energy, the result is that you are basically just throwing frozen orbs on the ground, spamming lightning spears like a maniac, and these lightning spears are gonna travel everywhere, kill everything in seconds, and you don't even have to worry about chasing the mobs or whatever. You're just gonna teleport through the dungeon and kill the boss at the very end. I divided this guide into 2 sections this time. The first section is the very early version of the build, which can you play as early as level 80. As soon as you have Asus boots and the Fractured Winterglass, it basically comes online. And the second section is the more late mid-game version. It's not really the late game version yet, it's more like a mid-game version. The late game version with Uber Uniques I'm not gonna cover in this guide, but it's gonna be present in the planner in the description down below. Also, check out all the other sections in the description down below if you're interested, and also don't forget to check out the breakpoint sections. If you don't know about breakpoints yet, that is very, very important for you to understand. And now, without further ado, let's go right into the guide, and as always we will start with the skill tree. Let's go over the skill tree. So we have Firebolt enchantment. This is probably gonna go away for very late game pushing, but still I'm like speed farming, so I'm still using it. Then we max out Frozen Orb into Destructive Frozen Orb. We don't really need a Greater Frozen Orb because Lightning Spears are going to make everything vulnerable anyway, and this gives you a nice little extra mana regeneration. Then we get 1 into Devastation, 3 into Elemental Dominance. We put 1 point into Flame Shield. If you have defensive skills on your chest piece, you can remove this point and put it somewhere else. And I max out Teleport just for the extra cooldown reduction. And I go Ice Blade into Mystical Ice Armor, Ice Armor into Mystical Ice Armor here for the extra boss damage. Max out Glass Cannon, 1 into Elemental Attunement. Then we max out Lucky Hit, because the Lucky Hit actually does matter a lot. Like, the Conjurations are actually firing a good amount of Frozen Orbs here. And then we max out Ice Blades into Summoned Ice Blades. We max out Lightning Spear into Invoked Lightning Spear. We max out Conjuration Mastery, 1 into Align the Elements, 3 Mana Shield, 3 Protection, so all pretty basic stuff here. Then 3 into Devouring Blaze, nothing special here. And then we get all the cold passives maxed here. We don't really need Frigid Breeze, we can sustain mana without. And then we choose Verse Mastery. So this is the better setup. If you want to run the other setup with the Asus Ferocity, literally you don't need to change anything about this skill tree at all. You just remove Verse Mastery and go into Asus Ferocity, and then you remove 2 ranks from Teleport and put them into Prime Unstable Currents. So that's literally the changes. If you're doing higher content, like for example I was doing the Infernal Hordes tier 7, you can definitely take more points out of Teleport and go into Electrocution, and probably put these 2 points into Electrocution. So this is really going to help you if you want to get more damage reduction. It's a nice little switch, but you don't have to do it. So let's revert this to the Verse Mastery variant here, and we put the remaining point backs into Teleport. For the skills, there's some stuff to say. Like, first, let's go over the skills. So Lightning Spear, this is your primary damage. I would assume this is like In the dungeon phase, this is 90% of your damage. You really just have to shoot the frozen orbs on the ground. On the boss, I would say this does roughly 50% of the damage. I would say roughly 50 is lightning spears and the other 50 is frozen orb. Maybe frozen orb is a little higher. So you want to spam lightning spear on cooldown. You just want to spam it, spam it, spam it. Then teleport. In the dungeon, you want to teleport far. So teleport is your main movement. You always want to teleport as far as possible. The lightning spears are going to kill stuff anyway. You don't need to see it. Flame Shield, you mainly use it to dodge the Shadow Clone abilities from the pit bosses. In the dungeon phase, avoid using Flame Shield, because if you use Flame Shield, your Elemental Attunement proc is gonna eat up the Flame Shield. Same with Ice Armor. Avoid using Ice Armor in the dungeon phase. Really just use Teleport. And then use Elemental Attunement to reset your teleport stacks. Obviously, if you are dying or have like issues, you can still use Flame Shield and Ice Armor and just teleport a little bit more slow. Unstable Currents you want to use on cooldown. We use the Orange Herald to reset the cooldown on it. On a boss fight, you have roughly 100% uptime on this. And then Frozen Orb, I highly recommend put it on a key, not on a mouse button. And you want to spam this all the time. It spawns Conjuration. So just spam it on the ground in the dungeon phase, and in the boss phase, obviously spam it on the boss. And Ice Armor gives us a nice little barrier, and we mainly use it for the 15% extra damage on the bosses. For the enchantments, Frozen Orb enchantments, absolutely no debate on it, because all the extra Frozen Orb casts from your Tempering and from your Winterglass, they're gonna also trigger Frozen Orb enchantments. So you can basically cast a maximum of 4 Frozen Orbs per cast with this. So there's no way around it. So about Firebolt enchantment, I think if you have enough damage, you can easily switch this for teleport enchantment and even be faster in tier 101 pits. I haven't really tested it yet, but it should be like significantly faster. But right now I'm still using it. In a high tier pushing scenario, you probably would switch this out for something which does some kind of damage. I don't even know what. Maybe a Ball Lightning enchantment, Meteor enchantment, I don't even know. So it's probably going to go for something useful. So now let's go over the items. I'm going to do this all at once because I don't want to switch my legendary aspects, but I want to say it. And you can always check the planner in the description down below. The aspects are in there. So first of all, we have a helm. We just want int, mana rec, and cooldown reduction here. The total armor roll is not necessary. It's wasted, but you want to have life and a random crowd control effect here. So I have Orange Herald here. This is for the better setup. If you want to do the early game setup without unstable currents, you can do anything like Ever Living or Aspect of Fortune. Basically, either choose a defensive one or choose Aspect of Fortunes. Those are the both good ones you can get. Gems, I'm right now doing a mix of Life and Topaz. You can definitely go either or. And then for our chest piece, I want to have intelligence, mana per second, and ideally you want to have rank to defensive skills. Ranks to teleport is nice, ranks to defensive skills is best. It's not a must, but it's gonna reduce your teleport cooldowns quite significant. So we have the concussive strike here for more boss damage, we have maximum life, and again we have another random crowd control effect. Then for our gloves, we're gonna go for attack speed, critical strike chance, ranks of Frozen Orb. Again, another random crowd control, and for the temper, always critical strike damage. And then we put the aspect for the Frozen Orb on the Frozen Orbit. Then for our pants, I have the concentration here, just as a defensive aspect for damage reduction. And then you want to have intelligence, maximum life, armor, and again, another random crowd control effect. For our boots, I just use basic Asus boots. Again, the more close to 40%, the better. All the other stats don't really matter at all here. Then for our weapon, we use Asus Ferocity. This is again for the simpler build. For the simpler build, we use Asus Ferocity because it gives us attack speed and it gives us easy access to attack speed. In the more advanced version, I'm switching to Accelerating Aspect here. And on your weapon, you want to have int max life crit damage, chance for frozen or projectiles to cast twice, and crit damage. On your focus, I'm playing the Splintering Energy. You want to have a max roll here. Mine is pretty close, but still not perfect. And ideally, you want to have crit chance, cooldown reduction, and probably maximum life is alright, but you can get intelligence as well here. Again, I have chance to have Frozen Orb to cast twice, and critical strike damage. Then I have the Tarasha ring, really just focus on the 16.5%. All the other stuff doesn't really matter. I happen to be pretty lucky, but this is not the best Tarasha ring. If you don't have this, absolutely no problem. Get a ring with crit chance and attack speed and crit damage or something like that. You absolutely don't need this. Instead, you can just play a Shredding Blades or something like that. And then for our other ring, I do attack speed, crit chance, critical strike damage here. We want to have resource cost reduction. Resource generation is bad, but I don't have rerolled my rings yet. So resource cost reduction, definitely the one you want to prefer here. And crit damage. And again, I use Shredding Blades here. I don't know, somebody said Shredding Blades is double dipping. I didn't really notice that, but it might be true, it might be not true. I think you can also go for, what did I just say? Not Shredding Blades. Stormswell, I mean. So I have Stormswell on here, and somebody said Stormswell is going to double dip on damage. Not sure if it's true or not. I didn't verify it. You can absolutely also go Shredding Blades. And then we obviously have the heart of the build, the Winterglass. So important stats here are really just the cooldown reduction and the Conjuration Mastery. So try to get a max roll cooldown reduction and max roll Conjuration Mastery. Everything else is bonus. Obviously, if you have a better chance on both Lucky Hit and casting Frozen Orbs, it's great, but it's not required at this point. Like, I get absolutely along with this. And you want to hit Conjuration Mastery as much as possible. Alright, let's talk about breakpoints. We mainly have just 2 breakpoints here. We just have critical strike and attack speed, which are important. And critical strike is not even a breakpoint. So first of all, let's talk about attack speed. So if you check the link in the description down below, you can check my attack speed breakpoint table here. And you will see the attack speed breakpoints for Frozen Orb. So let's just pull this up. So this is the attack speed breakpoints for Frozen Orb. So for this build, your target breakpoint is most likely the 94.4, or later it will be the 20, most likely. So in the earlier game where you don't play Unstable Currents or you don't play Accelerating Aspect, 94.4 is a very easy breakpoint to reach for you. So get 94.4 or more attack speed. And if you want to play Accelerating Aspect or Unstable Currents, probably Unstable Currents is going to be the best one. I don't think hitting for the very high breakpoints here, like the 18, is going to be very good. I think you're going to play Unstable Currents without Accelerating Aspect to meet the 113 breakpoints. I think this is going to be the smartest solution, so you can save the spot for the Accelerating Aspect on your gear for something different. But anyway, so you want to hit 94.4 attack speed in the basic variant with the Asus Ferocity, and then later your top goal will be the 113, but the 104.9 is also going to be alright. So this is the attack speed breakpoints. So let's go back into our game. As you can see here, we have an attack speed of 31.1%. And then we use the elixir of advantage. So let me just pause here real quick. So 2 different builds, right? The one with the Asus Ferocity, the early game variant. You use the elixir of resource. So you add 50% on top of this. We're going to be at 51.3, at 81.3. So that's not going to meet the 94.4 breakpoint. So you might want to consider using elixir of advantage. So as you can see, as soon as I use this and I add 50% from Asus, I'm going to jump to 96. So same story. If I not play Asus Ferocity, but I switch this to Ancient Flame and I use Unstable Currents, again, we add 50% on top of this. So we still will be at 96, which is above the breakpoint. For late game, we want to have greater FX attack speed on our gloves and our second ring if we play this. And then we can reach a little bit of a higher breakpoint. But, that's I'm not there yet. So this is basically the one breakpoint. And then we have crit chance here. So crit chance, my crit chance right now is 48.5. You want to have crit chance on your focus, really on your second ring, and really on your gloves here. So if I press for Asus boots, right, I get to 28%, so that's 71.7. That's technically way too low. I'm missing out on literally like almost 30% of my damage here. But my Asus boots are bad. So if you want to target a 40% Asus and better crit rolls, like greater FX gear, you should be able to reach like 80 to 90% crit. So that's the breakpoints. Attack speed 94.9, 94.4%. And crit, you want to be above 80 or 85%, I would say. It works, obviously, if you are still lower, but that's like a good target there. For the Paragon board, I play a little bit of a defensive board right now. I have to rework this board a little bit for the late game version, and I will post it also in the planner, how I revised this board. I'm just showing you the one which I'm showing you right now, which I did all the kills with. So I only have level 15 glyphs, other than Destruction, right? So Destruction I maxed out because I really need the crit damage, but the other ones I just have level 15 glyphs, so I definitely can get a little bit of extra bonus damage here if I max them out. So on the first board, I put the Tactician glyph here just for the 10% mainly, and we choose this extra life nodes. I usually don't do it, but this time I want to get a little bit more life. And then we move over to the Enchantment Master board. Right now I have this cluster. This is probably gonna go in the final version for this route because I don't really need the non-physical damage anyway. I have it on items. And I pick all the life nodes up here. And we play the Elementalist here again just for the 15% extra damage. And then we move over to the Elemental Summoner board. I just picked this because it only costs me 2 points. You don't have to pick it, but technically it will probably also go in the final version of this Paragon board. Then we put in the Conjurer glyph here. It's required. We need the 20% extra duration on the lightning spears. That's very important to keep our conjuration mastery stacks high. We pick up all the attack speed here, and right now I'm still playing this Reservoir because it gives me like a good amount of life, and it actually helps to have a little bit more extra mana, which comes into play if you play the Crown of Lucion. Right now I'm not playing it, but I played with the Crown, and it really helps to have the extra mana pool. But this is solely optional, so again, I will have an updated board in the description of the guide. And then we move over to the next board. That is going to be the Burning Instinct. So we pick up the damage reduction here just for the 10%, and we put in our Destruction with the max 49 dex. And I also pick up the damage reduction here. And then the next board is going to be the Frigid Fate. We pick up all the vulnerable damage reduction here as well. Actually, I could get one more. But again, I'm trying to be as defensive as possible, especially for Infernal Hordes. It really helps to be a little bit more defensive, and we have way more than enough damage. And then we obviously get the Frigid Fate, and we pick the Control glyph here. Again, if we are in high end, we're probably going to remove Control for something which does damage all the time. But right now, if we're just tier 101 fast pushing, this is the best glyph to choose here. And then last board I have here at the bottom. This is the Icefall board. Again, we just picked this mainly for the Icefall legendary node. We just picked this extra cold damage here. And we go in here for our exploit glyph. So changes on this board for like a late game version is probably going to be, this is going to get stripped out. This is going to get stripped out. And then we're most likely gonna add another board. This is probably also gonna be stripped out, not sure. But I wanna add one more board, basically. Alright, now I'm showing you the easier setup, which you can definitely use much earlier in the game. I know my gear is a little bit juiced at this point, but this is basically just basic gear. This is basic Asus boots. You absolutely don't need the Tal Rasha ring. It just works fine with a regular ring, with crit and attack speed or whatever. So the changes are here for the early game variant. We ditch with Mastery for Asus Ferocity. And then all we gotta do basically is we gotta put Ancient Flame on instead of Accelerating Aspect here. Ancient Flame. We can even find it. And then the only thing what is changing is I'm not using attack speed elixir now, I'm using resource elixir. You don't have to do this, but it helps if you are not as high masterworked as I am. It really helps with the process. And then instead of unstable currents, we use lightning spear. Because right now I have a good amount of cooldown reduction, right? I have a double crit cooldown reduction here. I have cooldown reduction on Tal Rasha, and I have cooldown reduction on my focus. So that's quite significant. If you don't have access to that cooldown reduction early, don't sweat it. Really, I just switched this to Ice Blades. This is gonna fix your cooldown, no problem. Alright, and now I'm gonna use the same setup here, and I'm gonna show you the 101 with this. And it's almost as fast as the other setup, and it really plays not much different. The only difference I don't like about is that you have to do a little bit more button smashing, because instead of before having to smash ice blade, instead of before you only had to smash lightning spear, and now you basically have to smash lightning spear and ice blades. Because if you don't use ice blades with this variant, your teleport cooldown is not going to be so great. I mean, you will still absolutely get along, but it's a little bit slower. But this variant, it really benefits of if you don't have the unique item yet, if you don't have a decent Tarasha ring yet, you can still play Ancient Flame, which gives you like the required attack speed, so you can use the resource elixir to fix everything. And as you can see, like I'm making it through this content like without any huge issues, and I have no strong uniques, really. I have like a 28% Asus, and that's pretty much it. Again, you don't need the Tarasha ring. A regular ring with attack speed and an aspect is almost the same as my Tarasha ring, damage-wise. Maybe you lose like out on like 10% damage or something like that. But, you know, it's not a huge deal. As you can see, like, this works just fine with this setup as well. So, you can definitely play this in the, I would say, early mid-game. I started playing this at level 80. And at this point, I already killed, like, Infernal Hordes tier 7. It killed, like, Uber Lilith without any problems. I killed, like, all the Tormented bosses in, like, sub 30 seconds. So, this is, I feel like this is the best starter build Sorg basically ever had. It is just super cool. It feels amazing to play. And especially if you don't have the ice blades anymore, it really reduces the amount of button smashing. Because in this variant, the button smashing is quite high, I have to say. Also for this variant, same story, you don't want to overuse Flame Shield during the dungeon phase. You want your Elemental Attunement to proc on your teleport as much as possible. So for the boss, pretty much the same thing. The only difference is we basically spam 2 skills now. But, you know, obviously damage is a little bit lower because we have like, actually, we're missing like 2 attack speed breakpoints here. Because we are not having the unstable currents. But still, like, you know, not a big deal, right? And this is a tier 101, which is really not the best gear. Okay, I hate this boss, by the way. So obviously, if you don't have him done in the second stagger, like this boss is doing this mass on the ground. But yeah, so that's the second setup, the easier setup. Alright, now I'm going to show you the not completely optimized setup, but the best one I have right now. So we still play all the defensive items here. You can definitely play better items, and as you can see, my stuff is not really optimized. I'm missing a good chunk of attack speed here. I don't have greater affixes. I got a good Winterglass though. So what we're gonna do is, with this unstable currents variant, we basically wanna avoid using Flame Shield in the dungeon phase. We wanna teleport far. Because our lightning spears are gonna pick up everything anyway. So we don't need to target mobs or anything. So what we're gonna do is, we're just gonna spam Frozen Orb on the ground, keep moving, and spam lightning spears, and teleport far. Right, that is the only goal here. And, you know, I might be able to squeeze in the teleport enchantment here. But, you know, this is also already pretty fast. And so why don't you want to use Flame Shield in dungeon? Because you want to have your elemental attunement to proc on your teleport. Because really the issue, the only issue, if you could call it an issue, we have here is teleport cooldown being high. And we want to basically reset as many teleports as possible so we can teleport far, because that is going to be our main clear speed in this build. So teleporting far, the lightning spears are going to kill everything no matter what, and that is the story here. This is also like a pretty bad layout, so this is going to take a little longer than the usual run. But usually you will finish runs in like, in 1 minute, 30 seconds to like 2 minutes. It really depends on the layout and how far you can go, because I might even have to backtrack in this run here to go to the soul shot there, to go to the portal, see if I have enough mobs. So it's really highly dependent. Usually you have more density than this one here. There's also like the pits are like somewhat bugged, like something is wrong with them. But anyway, yeah, so avoid using your Flame Shield. press Lightning Spears on cooldown and teleport far. And everything else is gonna die. As you can see, I just pass through them and they just die behind me. And I really hope I can find enough mobs. Nice. So for the boss, obviously I don't have Unstable Currents now. So you basically just want to face tank the boss. Hold your Frozen Orb key. Avoid the Shadow Clones with your Flame Shield. Then just stand in front of it and just keep spamming the Lightning Spear. And just pick up the boss, really. Nothing really is gonna happen to you as long as you like keep disciplined with the Flame Shield when the Shadow Clones appear. You should be able to pick up these bosses in like seconds.